Hi Year 6, welcome to Tuesday's maths lesson. Yesterday we had a look at the perimeter of shapes. Today for the main part of our lesson we're going to be having a look at the area of different shapes. Today, to start off with, I'm just going to start off with one of the questions that you had a go at on maths.co.uk yesterday. Now, this is the question that most people seemed to struggle with, or the fewest of you got the answer correct. Now sometimes it's a little bit tricky with perimeter when they give you some shapes stuck together like this. So here we've got two squares stuck together. So I'm just going to read the question to you. A field is made up of two squares joined together. A farmer puts a fence around the outside of the field. How much fence is needed to go around the outside of the field? Now, the key here is that they've told us that they are squares. So I've got two squares. I've got a big square, which is 8 metres, and a small square, which is 4 metres. So if I know that this side of the big square is 8 metres, then this side must be 8 metres as well. And that's going from here to here. That's 8 metres. And this side must be 8 metres. I'm going to leave this side for now. We'll come back to it. Then thinking about my smaller square. The one side they've given me is 4 metres. So this side here must be 4 metres. And this side here must be 4 metres. Okay, so all I'm left with then at the moment is this one side, which I don't know what it measures. So I've got to work that out using the information they've given me. So I know that from the top to the bottom of the square is 8 metres. So whether that's on this side, on the right, or on this side on the left, it's got to be 8 metres. And I know that this part here is 4 metres. So altogether my square measures 8 metres. But this part is 4 metres, which tells me that this part of my square must also be 4 metres. So now I've got all my sides, all I have to do is add them together to work out the length of the fence. So I go 8 add 8 is 16, add another 8 is 24, add 4 is 28, add another 4 is 32, add another 4 is 36, add my final 4 is 40. So my answer was 40 metres. I think the part that we were struggling with a little bit is working out the missing side when they don't give it you like that. And we'll have a bit more of an opportunity to practice that today when we're looking at area, especially if you go into the stretch questions. Some of the stretch questions will cover that same sort of skill again today. Okay, before we go into the main part of our lesson then, as usual, we've got our 6 arithmetic questions. So if you pause the video now and have a go at those. Okay, year 6. I'm going to go through the answers then. I'll model some of them, but not all of them. Okay, so the first one then, we've got a column subtraction. We had to make sure we lined our digits up correctly. Okay, first of all we'd ask ourselves, what is 1 take away 4? Hopefully we spotted we can't do that, so we need to exchange. And here we're going to have to go to the thousands column to do that. So I make that 10, cross it out, make it a 9. Exchange into the tens column, cross it out, make it a 9. And then I've got 11 take away 4, gives me 7. 9 take away 3 gives me 6, 9 take away 8 is 1, and 2 take away 1 gives me 1. So my answer is 1167 for question 1. Okay, question 2, similar in that it was a column subtraction, and we did need to line the digits up. So the way to set it out, we've got 15, so a 1 in the tens column and a 5 in the ones column, and then we need to line our decimal point up underneath. So we need that 1 needs to be in the ones column, the 5 in the tens column, and the 6 in the hundreds column. I'd need 2 placeholder zeros to enable me to do the subtraction. Again, I asked myself what is 0 take away 6, and hopefully realise that I can't do it, so I'm going to need to exchange. Right, 10 take away 6 is 4, 9 take away 5 is 4, 4 take away 1 is 3, and 1 take away nothing is 1. So my answer is 13.44. Okay, question 3, we're multiplying a decimal by a whole number. Unlike the subtraction, remember, this time we don't need to line up the columns like we would in the subtraction. When we're doing a multiplication, you would set it out as I have done there. So 1.43 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15, carry my 1. 5 times 4 is 20, add my 1 gives me 21. And 5 times 1 is 5, add my 2 gives me 7. And I do, really importantly, need to remember that decimal point drops down into my answer. So my answer is 7.15. Okay, question 4, we've been doing these for a couple of weeks now. The question says, what is 42% of 210? First of all, I need to find 1% of 210. So remember, to find 1%, you divide by 100. So 1% is 2.1, and then I need to do 2.1 times by 42. So the answer that I should have got is 88.2. Okay, question 5, we've got what is 1.5 times 60? I break this one down, and I would do, first of all, I would do what is 1 lot of 60? And then I would ask myself, what is half of 60? So 1 lot of 60 is 60, half of 60 is 30. So altogether, my answer for number 5 is 90. Question 6, bus stop method for division. 2079 divided by 3, and the answer we were looking for that one was 693. Stretch questions. Number 1, the answer was 471,689, and question 2, the answer was 56. Okay, year 6, hope you got on all right with those today. Next bit of learning, then we're going to have a go at our times table practice. So time yourself, give yourself a minute to have a go at the times tables on the screen. Okay, year 6, hopefully you've had the opportunity to do that. We're now moving into the main part of our lesson. Our I can today is I can find the area of shapes. So yesterday you looked at finding the perimeter, and perimeter meant edge, going round the edge of a shape. Area is the space inside a shape, and we calculate area in centimetres squared. So centimetres with a little 2 centimetres squared. So for our Fluency 1 questions, we're going to be finding the area by counting the squares. Now this is something that you've probably done lower down the school, but it often comes up on SATs tests in year 6 as well, where the question simply asks you to count the squares to find the area. So we're going to try that for Fluency 1. So I'm imagining for all these questions today that these are 1 centimetre squares. Now I haven't got the ruler out and measured my screen, so I don't know if they actually are 1 centimetre squares, and it depends whether you're viewing this video on a phone or a laptop or an iPad, whether they actually are as well. But for the sake of it today, we're calling these 1 centimetre squares. So first of all, I've got a square. I'm going to count how many squares are inside that, and as I count, I'm going to mark them off as I go. And the reason I'm going to do that is so that I don't accidentally count one of my squares more than once. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so for that square there, the area is 4 centimetres squared. Remember, centimetres squared, it's got a little 2. Okay, so we measure area in centimetres squared. Okay, my next shape then. Again, I'm going to count the squares, count the whole squares, marking them off as I go. Once I've counted the whole squares, I'm then going to count any half squares. So I've got 2 whole squares, and this square here is not a whole square that's taken up by my shape, it's only half a square. So therefore, my area must be 2.5. 0.5, remember, is the same as a half. 2.5 centimetres squared. Okay, my next shape then that I've got is this triangle shape here. So again, exactly the same. I'm going to count the whole squares first, marking them off as I go, and then I'm going to count any half squares and add them together. So I've got 1, 2, 3 whole squares. All right then, and I've got 1/2 and a half, which together make a whole square. So that gives me 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I've got another half that I've not yet counted. So my area for that triangle is 4.5 centimetres squared. So I've got 3 whole ones plus 2 halves, which make a whole one, plus another half, which gives me 4.5. Okay, Year 6, what I would like you to do then for Fluency 1 is look at the shapes on the screen and do exactly as I have done then. So you're just counting the area of the shaded part. That's especially important when you come to look at question 3 and question 5. Okay, pause the video now and have a go at those, please. Okie dokes. Looking at the answers for these then, for number 1, I haven't got any whole squares. I've got half a square and half a square, which makes 1 whole, and another half, which makes 2 holes. So number 1, the answer is 2 centimetres squared. Number 2, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 whole ones, plus 2 halves, which make 5 whole ones, plus another 2 halves, which make 6 whole ones, plus another 2 halves, which make 7 whole ones. So I've got 7 centimetres squared. Okay, question 3. This question is taken from a stats paper a couple of years ago. Again, we just need to count the squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So my answer is 18 centimetres squared. Don't need to count these squares inside because they're not shaded. Okay, question 4, possibly the trickiest one on here. Again, I've got no whole squares, so I'm just going to be counting in halves. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 centimetres squared. So I've got 10 half squares there. Okay, question 5. I'm going to start by counting the whole ones first of all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Plus 2 halves is 11. Plus 2 halves gives me 12. 12 centimetres squared. Okay. Hopefully you got on all right with that, Year 6. For Fluency 2, we're going to be looking at another way of calculating area. Now, for these questions, we haven't given you the squared background, so you can't just simply count the squares inside the shape. In these kind of questions, the way to find area is to multiply the length, which is the long side of the shape, by the width, which is the short side of the shape. Okay, so find area, we multiply length by width. So here we've got 8 multiplied by 4, so 8 centimetres multiplied by 4 centimetres. So my area for this shape is 32 centimetres squared. All I'm doing is 8 times 4. For my blue rectangle, pause the video now and see if you can work out the area of that shape. Okay, hopefully you did 6 times 11, which gave you 66 centimetres squared. Okay, and finally we've got a square. Okay, I'd like you to pause the video now and see if you can work out what the area of the square is. Okay, hopefully you realised a square has got all the sides that are the same. All the sides have the same length. So if it's 5 centimetres on the bottom, it's going to be 5 centimetres on the side as well. So to work out the area of the square, we're going to go 5 times 5 is 25, and it's 25 centimetres squared. Okay, so if you know the width you know the length for a square as well. Okay. Here are your Fluency 2 questions then to have a go at Year 6. So if you pause the video and try to calculate the area of each of these shapes. Okay, I'll go through the answers then. So for number 1, you should have got 24 centimetres squared. For number 2, 18 centimetres squared. Number 3, 10 centimetres squared. Number 4, quite tricky, but multiplying a decimal by a decimal, I think you could probably do it. It was 3.75 centimetres squared. Number 5, 36 centimetres squared. Number 6, 64 centimetres squared. Number 7, 225 centimetres squared. And number 8, again, really tricky, so massive well done if you got this one right, but 51.84 centimetres squared. Okie dokes. In your problem solving today, it's on maths.co.uk, you're going to be asked to work out the areas of some shapes and then to compare the shapes. So deciding which one has the bigger area. And actually, if you did all right with your Fluency 2 today, you'll be absolutely fine with the problem solving. So on the screen I've got 2 rectangles. I've got a yellow rectangle and a blue rectangle. The question says, use the greater than or less than symbols to compare the area of the yellow and blue rectangles. So before I can compare the area, I've got to work out the area. So my yellow rectangle, I'm going to do 8 times 5, so the area of my yellow rectangle is 40 centimetres squared. For my blue rectangle, I'm going to do 4 times 11, so the area of my blue rectangle is 44 centimetres squared. Okay, now I can compare them. I know that blue rectangle has got a greater area, so I can write the yellow rectangle. I'm going to leave them in the same order as they're in at the moment. The yellow rectangle is less than the blue rectangle. Okay, remember when you're using these symbols, we like to think of them as crocodiles. The crocodile always eats the larger amount, the greater amount. Okay, so its mouth is facing the greater amount. As I said, I think you'll be absolutely fine with the problem solving questions on maths.co.uk if you understand that fluency part. Again, on maths.co.uk today, there is a stretch set of questions if you want to challenge yourself. And if you have a go at the stretch set of questions, you're going to come across some questions that look a little bit like these ones. So not only are you finding the area of a shape, there's perhaps another level to it where you've got to add bits together. So first of all, I'm going to start off with this question, and we're going to try and find the area of this shape. It's the same shape that we had yesterday in our question when we were finding the perimeter. So the way to find the area of this shape is to break it down into 2 rectangles. Okay, so if I want to find the area of this larger rectangle, I've got to do the length times the width. So I've got to do 10 times 7. Okay, it's not 10 times 10 because that length goes all the way up there, doesn't it? And it goes further than this rectangle. I just want to find this rectangle, so I'm going to do 10 times 7. 10 times 7 gives me 70 centimetres squared. So that's for that big rectangle. But I also want to find, that looks like a 76. I wanted to write 70. I also want to find the area of this smaller rectangle now as well. So I know the length of the smaller rectangle is 4, but I need to know what the width of it is. Okay, so I need to use the information that they've given me to work that out. And again, I'm going to look at this, and I know that this is 10 and this is 7. So 10 centimetres all the way down, 7 centimetres to here, which helps me work out that this then is 3 centimetres, because 10, take away my 7, gives me 3 centimetres. So to work out the area of this small rectangle, I'm just going to do 4 times 3, which gives me the answer 12. So altogether then, the area of this shape is 70 centimetres squared add 12 centimetres squared, which equals 82 centimetres squared. Okay. This next question then, just going to rub out my workings out because it's kind of going into that question. This next question, similar. They've given me this funny shape and I've got to work out the area of the grey section. So it says a white square is painted in one corner of a grey square. So this is my big grey square, and in one corner of that square they've painted a white square. Each side of the white square is half the length of the side of the grey square. Right. So they've told me that the length of the grey square is 12. So each side of the white square then is going to be 6. And that's the length of each side. Right then, to work out the area, I'm going to need to do 12 times 12, which would give me the total area of that full grey square. 12 times 12 is 144. So that grey square, including the white section, is 144 centimetres squared. But then I've got to take away this white section because it's covering up the grey section, isn't it? And I know that each side of this white section is 6 centimetres. So to work out the area of the white section of the square, I've got to do 6 times 6, which is 36. And then I've got to take that away from 144. So 144, take away my 36, and it gives me the answer 108. So the area of that grey section then is 108 centimetres squared. Okay, because I've worked out the whole square and then taken away the smaller square. Okay, once again, if that last part threw you a little bit, please do not panic. Those are just the stretch questions on maths.co.uk today. Okay, year 6, have a go at that. If you need any help with anything, remember we have got the check-in calls, or you can send me, myself and Mr. Manns a message on the chat if you need us.